I can't believe this is happening right now and almost no one is talking about it. Just yesterday we got the worst piece of news since COVID and markets should be tanking, yet they are not. Bitcoin is pushing towards $80,000. The S&P just flipped green and beneath the surface, the altcoins are just lining up for the insane move that we only had seen in the last 4 years. Some say that's because of Trump 90 days tariff delay, but I would say there is something bigger going on. In this video, I will share several trade setups, altcoins that are actually going to pump like crazy, and why. Exactly why the current time is actually one in this cycle opportunity. Do me a favor, press the like button and let's get into today's video. First things first. All the viewers of the channel probably know my legendary Pepe loan that was $400,000 of profit at a certain point of time. It was pretty much realized $400,000 of profit. This is the video that I was recording from February 27th when I was sharing $32,000 of profit at this stage, and I would like to just start it for several seconds. But the actual reasoning why I'm showing it currently, the message I'm trying to transfer is that we should be in a way similar setup right now. In this setup where several actions around this time, or maybe slightly lower, no one is protecting us from that. And that's why I think if you're entering with leverage, you should either have a tight stop loss or enter with low leverage, ready to hold through the potential upcoming dip. But this time is very, very important. This was just one action. This was just $20,000 on 3x leverage. On me checking out after the community, after the coin for the whole bear market.
First things first, I wanted to provide several updates from my Pepe loan. Right now it's at $32,000. It was closer to 40K when we were reaching a recent local top, all-time highs as well. It's obviously we're seeing a correction right now, but I do think that this thing will just go to $10 billion at least.
This thing will go to $10 billion at least. Exactly where Pepe went to. Pepe went to $12 billion thus far. We'll see. We'll see, because Ethereum really, if you would ask me, I would still say Ethereum did not have a bull market. And this what happened later, which is a very, very interesting, profound thing. Just 2 to 3, 4 days later, instead of $30,000 on my trade, which I was doing nothing on, because the whole idea was just sit there and do nothing, right? I was $130,000 in profits already.
Let's record this video, guys, right?
The reason I'm laughing on this video is actually because of the fact that people were selling the longs. So they still had this trading mentality. They still didn't understand that holders are actually going to outperform now. They still were in this trading setup, which a lot of people are most likely making the same mistakes on as well. It's truly hard to actually be able to hold your assets through these times of downturn. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm saying yes, traders were performing and definitely outperforming on the market thus far. These directions, they usually change. Traders outperform, I would say, for the most of the time, but then in a swift pocket of time, holders outperform, and they outperform heavily. They make up for months of traders' wins. And I do believe that we are very, very close to this type of time, right?
Can you actually imagine someone sold will me because actually miss out? Like, it's funny at this stage, right?
Very, very important thought.
And it's funny for me because you might think I'm insane, right? But in some time, like in 6 months from now, it would actually be very, very sad, because it could have been life-changing money for people. The only thing they had to have is actually conviction. Nothing else at this stage. Just conviction. Just research this thing, just understand.
Just a conviction to hold. And this, I believe, a lot of us will make a mistake on moving further into the upcoming several months of this market. We will also talk about Bitcoin dominance today, because I do believe it's very, very important. And I do believe that finally, I know I've been calling for it multiple times. A lot of people on the market, they've been calling for it multiple times. We either going to resist and reject and turn back down BTC dominance around these levels, or there is slightly bit more pain, which shall be happening in upcoming several weeks, which means over the time frame of this cycle-wise, where we are currently, right now, should actually be one of the best times to be entering the alts. And their pricing, if before you were whining, people were whining that the valuations are too big, no one wants to be buying that, right? Right now it's different. And especially considering the fact we have this type of turbulence happening on the stock market. One of the big narratives I'm actually seeing for crypto that might be happening is the fact that in the reversal that should be coming, crypto shall be reversing way higher and way more speedy than the stocks on the stock market, which will naturally just attract way more people into the stock market right away, right? Something that Rand was shared yesterday. I still maintain the US markets will close green today. This is something essentially happened on Monday. Carl the Moon is sharing Bitcoin will go to $500,000 plus. Top alts will 100x plus this year. Wake up because you're dreaming. Sounds like a mantra, top signal. No, this is the type of feedback that you are getting with this type of thoughts out there. Very, very important to understand the current market sentiment, not even the market sentiment, understand how people are positioned at this stage, to understand what they will be planning to do in the upcoming pumpage, in the upcoming run, if we are getting one. They will be doing what? They will be non-believing, they will be selling, and there will be guys that will be entering the market after them with no crypto experience whatsoever, with no investing experience whatsoever, and they will actually be making more money. They will be outperforming heavily. Why? Because they don't have this. I think it's actually a scientific thing in our brain. It's a special part in our brain. When you touch a hot oven, when you're a kid and you get burnt, this thing essentially teaches you, don't do it again. You get hurt, right? And after that, you essentially are not doing this. In investing, it kind of hurts your performance when we're switching from this like bearish setup where you actually need to trade to win something in the marketplace. When we're switching back to the bullish setup, this is definitely something that hurts you out there. And the core idea, the core goal, the reason investing is still like so hard is because like almost each and every part is wired against the way we think evolutionary, the way our brain is set up. You don't have to follow the crowd, and naturally your brain wants to follow the crowd. You have to do actions that actually burned and hurted you before, right? And your brain obviously doesn't want to be doing them. You have to not be emotional. You have to do exactly opposite as other people are essentially doing, right? It's insane. It's way different. That's why it's hard. And that's why I'm saying that I do believe that the only reason all this stock market game, all this crypto game is not turned into AI yet, because they definitely can do it. And they have AI running and making money since 90s at least, and probably even sooner, right? The only way they did not turn it into full AI yet is because they want to rob the population. And this is the way to rob the population. This is the way to rob emotional people out there. I'd be surprised if the stock market isn't green today. Something that was shared yesterday as well. This is a giant article from Ray Dalio. Don't make the mistake of thinking that what's now happening is mostly about tariffs. I honestly did not go through it myself. I just bookmarked it, so I would be going about it a bit later, all right? I do believe that mainly he would be sharing stuff that he's sharing in his book in terms of the empire crashes. And I also heard a bunch of opinions from good traders that, guys, don't think that this is about Trump. Don't think that this is about tariffs. They want you to think this way. They carefully orchestrate like this thing would have happened before anyway. Trump tariffs 101 for crypto people. The US built the best and largest Ponzi in history, leveraging its post-World War II dominance to build a global economic machine of its choosing. Americans got wealthy and started consuming from abroad in masses. Foreigners would sell cheap goods to Americans and invest all proceeds into American assets, thus keeping interest rates low, financing US consumption and investments at the lowest possible rates, helping the US economy grow at a faster pace and sending asset prices higher, further inflating the Ponzi. Also keeping the dollar strong, making Americans richer. This inflated Ponzi made Americans even richer, allowing them to consume more and allowing them to use their inflated assets as collateral. I know like it's a big post, but it's very important. It just explains the whole thing perfectly. And so this perfect and never-ending flywheel went, propped up by confidence in the system and perpetual inflows. But then came coronavirus, and Trump first briefly, then Biden later oversaw public spending increase to extreme levels. The Fed fanned the flames. Inflation got out of control, and so did interest rates, sending public debt to unsustainable levels. The Fed soft-landed the economy, but more was needed. A solution would have been to implement a long-term plan for diminishing public spending, deregulating and increasing productivity by leveraging AI, where the US is keen, thus increasing growth and tax revenue while lowering debt service. It's actually pretty insane like what type of world we might be getting with the final implementation of AI out there. It should be quite insane. Alice, Trump's solution is radically different. Introduce exorbitant tariffs, which is mainly tax on consumers. So Americans would stop consuming so much, reducing trade deficits, and stopping foreigners from investing their profits into the great American Ponzi. Further exacerbated by retaliatory measures, which leads to even smaller capital inflows. Once the flows turn, bottomless pit appears. Now US assets should trade on valuations rather than flows. And that is what we are seeing. If you own the Ponzi, you want people to buy it, not the other way around. As Justin Sun once famously said, buy my shitcoin. And the silver lining for crypto people, if the dollar ceases to be the global reserve currency of the world, that opens room for Bitcoin to take its place. But that comes way later. Well, that's definitely not something bullish, at least short term, right? China is striking back. They are playing a very smart game and retaliating in a way that could seriously hurt Trump's plan. Interesting. I'll spell it out explicitly one last time. Everyone thinks Trump wants balanced trade. He does not. He wants to force allies to stop trading with China completely, zero inbound supply. Because it's not just because of Americans' jobs, it's a proactive move to slow down China's industrial rise. Everything is downstream of this. Reserve currency status, the ability to address fiscal debt. It's a crazy risk because China has a vote. It's a crazy risk because you're forcing Europe to commit seppuku because they have very little leverage or say in the matter. It's a crazy risk because Xi might bomb the fabs in Taiwan and the world doesn't get AGI, right? It's a crazy risk because China knows how financialized we are and will dump bonds and equities to drive anger towards Trump, but it also has benefits if it works. If your allies can trade with China, there is no near-peer competitor to worry about. It has a ton of benefits. Just look at what happened after World War II USSR collapsed when American was the last man standing. Hegemony. Trump advisors like Maran believe that you can coerce your allies to pay for your security umbrella in the form of buying longer debt treasuries. Many of you think everyone around Trump is retarded. I get it. You hate the guy and everything he stands for. But I will say this until I'm blue in the face. Besant and even Maran have higher IQs than most, if not all of you. They thought through the second order effects. Believe me. If I, a dumb Team TLS bro, thought this far ahead, they certainly did too, which means they warned Trump how risky this was and how deeply rational it is if you plan to eventually cut a deal with China. Therefore, you have to assume Trump heard the risks and said, fuck it, we ball anyways. Economic blitzkrieg. That's what we're seeing. And it's only the start. Pretty much crazy take all of the situation in terms of China and the US. And I would say that this is the main reason why people are so scared at this stage, because people are used to this, I would say, non-risk, calm environment, employee-like mindset. I'm just sitting there, I'm just investing. It's it's this type of deal that actually US made with its citizens. You're sitting in comfort, you can invest into this Ponzi, nothing is happening, and we don't touch you. You kind of don't touch us in reverse, right? And right now, it's almost like this unverbal pact, which is nowhere on the documents. It's kind of crashing, it's a different thing right now. Trump is putting a bunch of risks on the people out there. That's why everyone is hating on them and things like that. I still do believe in the positive resolution of the situation. It's kind of this attempt to actually fight the terrible events that will be happening in the future, with very, very high chance, right? From this point of view, you have nothing to lose anyway, because of the fact that terrible events are planned within these countries, within China, within the operation Taiwan 2027 and all this stuff. It's public, it's planned, right? So you either try to do something and gamble here with a lot, because it's definitely a high stakes game, or you essentially just flow in as shit in the river and you're dealing with consequences right after. Trump wants to do something currently. They obviously don't want to deal with the consequences because they won't be in power. And this is where actually dictatorship are stronger than all of these democratic type of setups. Because if you say something, it's being done right away. You don't have long wait time. You don't have delays. Bunch of orders that Trumps were signing, they're not even executed at this stage, right? And obviously you have time. You can be playing on time, which arguably is one of the most important things out there. History doesn't repeat, but it sure as fuck rhymes. February, March 2020, SPX minus 30% over 8 weeks as people thought COVID was going to infect the whole world extremely quickly, putting all businesses at high risk. People were shaken out in a big way as individual stocks dropped 50%, with Bitcoin coming down over 70%. When stimulus was announced, the panic subsided quickly, and it led to the biggest 2-year surge in risk assets ever. Everyone who bought the blood and held steady enjoyed serious gains. March to April 2025, SPX down 20% so far, as the fear of tariffs has people convinced the global recession is around the corner. I would say global recession is seldomly happening when people are convinced about that, right, and making actions before. People are being shaken out in a big way. BTC is down 30% and alts and memes are down 70-90%. Even like largest media, they are running fear campaigns right now. We are already seeing talks of the trade negotiations between the US and other countries, and I suspect this thing ends just as fast or faster than 2020. Those who buy and hold great assets through the pain will once again enjoy generational gains. Different year, same shit. There will always be another crisis. It's all about how you carry yourself during each one. Buy and hold or fold. It's your choice. The reason I'm still positive and the reason you probably see me mostly bullish on this channel and stuff is because I am following pretty much liquidity cycle out there, right? People are very, very quick to say 4-year cycle is over, alt season is not happening. You can't be saying that, I do think, at the end of 2025. If nothing happened, plus minus maybe 1 quarter 2026. After that, it will be clear that nothing has happened, right? But in the previous bull markets, only 20% of the times alts were going up and they were outperforming heavily. And if you think about that, the ground that they prepared right now is just perfect. If you remember things that were happening in December when everyone was planning for it, everyone was positioned, right? It was not the soil to have a great alt season on. The soil that alt season actually needs to happen on is doubt, is fear, is people taking profits, is people selling, is people constantly thinking that we are going lower. The exact same thing that was happening for the first round of Pepe, since $500 million to $70 billion. And these are the fragments that I was just sharing with you, right? Moving further, it's absolutely insane where we are in the timeline currently. It's absolutely insane the value of dollar currently, the value of investments that you might be making at this stage. Don't tell me about your fear right now. All you literally have to do right now to get dump reach is buy alts and log off for 6 months to a year. You've literally never had a better setup. You can't take zero risk when you're 65. It's also a very interesting thing because just recall the situation. Just recall everyone constantly screaming about altcoins. And I can share the whole thing perfectly. End of 2022, start of 2023, BTC pretty much finds the bottom. FTX crashes. BTC is around $16,000. Some people are buying Bitcoin, but most, they're buying into alts. They're buying into alts because they're thinking, well, it's probably the bottom. It's highly likely bottom for alts, right? What happens right after? Almost a year of pain. In the August of 2023, altcoins actually find the bottom. And a lot of them, they're even lower than around the time when BTC found the bottom. And BTC is surging up, right? So it's already kind of max pain scenario for most, right? Then we had our surge up of BTC and some altcoins, not all. I would say overall, yeah, we're definitely making profits since the October 2023 till the March of 2024, right? But definitely not the profits that people were expecting in comparison to the previous cycle. And then everything just crashes. The same thing happened around the start of the autumn. The same thing happened around December. It's just constant max pain scenario for altcoin holders. If you think about that, like Pavlov's dogs, they're constantly taught, don't go into this thing, don't buy, you're getting hurt, don't hold. They're just finding new lows and new lows and new lows and new lows. And all these narratives, BTC dominance is going to 70%. Nothing is happening. There are too much coins. Your meme coins, they sucked out all of the alt season situation out there, and that's why alt season is not happening. Partially, yes. You might say that because people used to gamble all alts and people just started to gamble meme coins, right? But it's still the situation that should be happening. Because if you really want to attract nice outside liquidity from the stock market, because people sold heavily out of stock market, did this money went somewhere? Did they evaporate? No, they're sitting there. They need proper companies. They need to believe that alts are actually changing the world. They need to see revenue numbers. They want these things. No one in their right mind coming from the stock market who's 50 plus years old and his net worth is 20 million plus, they won't be putting a dime into a meme coin. This is no chance. So the money that you're pretty much hunting with your meme coins out there are money of millennial brokers, right? That might join when we will be in the peak, or probably current crypto bros, right? But all these bigger guys, they should be coming, they should be buying utility. They should be buying into altcoins. Teams that were working, proper updates, development processes, new launches, new software, things that they can essentially look into, right? They have to have an option to treat them as tech companies, as they're used to. Don't tell me about your fear right now. All you literally have to do right now to get down breach is buy alts. I just mentioned this as well. If you bought Ethereum 7 years ago and held it all the way until today, you got outperformed by someone who bought Farcoin yesterday. It's a pretty interesting take because think about anything you actually did have an option to buy 7 years ago and with what you actually was able to outperform. I think like even XRP, if you bought it 7 years ago, like it's pretty hard. It's probably like mostly just Bitcoin, right? Because even memes, they were not present at that levels. Maybe like Doge, if it was like way lower 7 years ago, and it probably was like probably just Doge, Shiba, and Bitcoin, right? Nothing else. Top 10 CT moments: losing it all, hitting your first 100x, becoming schizophrenic, wanting to end it all, losing all social skills and IRL friends, learning who Bob Lax is, making friends enemies, fighting group chats, your own friends ragging you, rape. A lot of these moments are quite similar to not just crypto Twitter moments, but to crypto moments, if you're essentially in this niche. Intel, the Department of Justice dissolves its crypto unit as President Trump rolls back digital asset regulations. It's quite interesting. I don't think that we got like 100% news on this one yet at this stage, because I think if it was really like this, crypto will probably react right away. People are saying that, yeah, it's nice, bullish for crypto and things like that. I don't think it will if it's happening. Of course, China hinting at devaluation is a huge risk. China has 60 trillion in deposits, 3x more than the US. If this capital starts to flee, it will have catastrophic consequences. In 2015-16, we saw this, and it started the great move in Bitcoin from $200 to $20,000. There is really speculation out there that the only reason BTC moved is because Russian oligarchs got sanctioned and they had nothing to invest to except the BTC, right? This is how I look at the market right now. I'm trying to not to be biased. Ultimately, they have to print money, and when they do, Bitcoin will go up more. When Bitcoin goes up more, many crypto assets will follow, like Solana and probably memes. Zoom out, keep it simple, and don't blow up while waiting for the brr, which is money printer, right? The reason why developers are leaving crypto is much simpler than people realize. Is because of meme coins. A very, very important thing I wanted to focus on as well. When developers who have been working 40-50 hours a week on a project open Twitter and see their feed dominated by pump fund projects which require zero technical expertise yet reach 9-10 figure valuations, they feel zero motivation to actually try and build something useful. Partially, you might say that, like, it's very interesting that all of this AI agent mania that we had around the time of the new year, it exactly was like engineers just coming in and robbing crypto folks out there. And it was probably like very, very similar to the way alts were doing it back in the previous cycle. It's just that the amount of development probably was even lower and smaller in comparison to even the time and effort that people were putting into the altcoin projects last cycle. This isn't only because meme coins reach such high valuations, but also because the industry mostly doesn't care about useful things. This is unless it's something which enables better gambling, like pump fun. But if the future of this industry is just building better mechanisms to gamble with, this is not a serious industry, and people should not expect top tier developers to stay actively built here. And I have the same take that I just voiced out around liquidity. And I think you, as a viewer of this video, you care much more about new liquidity coming into this fucking space than new developers, right? Developers are like, they're nice, right? But you care about liquidity mostly. And if this space won't become more serious, no liquidity will be coming in. It's a very important thing to understand. And that's why, like, as a psyop, we actually have to create this psyop again, so people will believe into altcoins and stuff, right? And the way it will be created is that the assets that you just did have an option to hold and do nothing, they will outperform like crazy. And traders, they will suffer. You could argue that crypto has always had meme coins, but the rise of Solana's dominance over the past year has always proved that the meme coin industry mindshare has increased exponentially compared to the past. Personally, I couldn't care less about the future of this industry, the future of meme coins, but I just think that the reason that this graph has topped out is much simpler than people realize. If you think about that, I also mentioned that a bunch of liquidity just got freed out in the stock market. And when you essentially free out your liquidity, when you sell the coin, when you're fully in dollars, it's like post-nut clarity, right? Because you do have an option to allocate into the exact same thing, but you also start to think like, I heard Trump talking about this thing, and we have crypto strategic reserve, we have Ethereum there as well. This crypto thing was like doing nicely through the past several years. We might be moving into the risk code. Maybe I should actually be looking into that. This is just a speculation. It's probably like a thought process that might be happening in the hands of many stock market investors out there. Obviously, the ones that have more capital, because I don't think they will be full porting into crypto. Maybe they will just increase allocation like from 0% to 10%, which still will be fucking huge. It's insane. Realistically, manufacturing won't return to the US unless it's driven by robots or supported by a foreign workforce, because Americans just aren't doing that kind of labor anymore. I remember working under the table in a factory when I was younger, and the Mexican workers were easily 10 times more efficient than the Americans. So without automation or immigration, there is no way we can't compete. It's very interesting that in each and every country you have to the directions that you want to overtake in order to develop further, right? If you become rich, you can either invite immigrants and replace all the low-level jobs, and this way you would essentially decrease the prices that you would have, but you would essentially start to have more and more immigrants and become at the risk of the replacement of the native population by immigrants, right? And the second option is that you do not invite immigrants, right? And this way the prices, they keep going higher, along with essentially the increase of wealth in the country, but you're kind of like sustaining this national stuff that happened. Example of that, for example, Switzerland, right? I've been in Swiss, you won't see a lot of immigrants working even as waiters, right? You won't see a lot of that, from my point of view, at least from my experience, right? Obviously, you have the case like US and other parts of Europe as well, where you have a bunch of immigrants taking on low-level jobs, right? At the same time, certain things unfortunately break out in society because these are people that are used to some other things, I would say. And you have to reconstruct the rules, like, it's insane. Don't listen to any of the talking heads. 100 times out of 100, they're doing the opposite. I do believe we are definitely in the midst of fear campaign that is happening for the whole market in terms of just making sure that people will sell more and more and just exit and all this good stuff. I do believe that right now is a great time to be buying on spot, and I do believe like potentially if we're getting like the second dip this time, this thing should even be better, right? But I also don't think that like we are going into like a major downturn till the end of the summer. Like I'm not thinking that at this stage. Thank you very much for watching this one. I shall be seeing you tomorrow. Stay healthy and rich. Bye bye.